Eddie Jones back to Japan, folks. All the rumors ended up being true, and all the denials ended up being false. Eddie Jones has now been confirmed after it being speculated for many a day that he was going to return to coach Japan. Japanese rugby has confirmed it. So Eddie Jones, he's going to take them through to the 2027 Rugby World Cup. We'll talk a little bit about the appointment, some of the controversy around the process of his appointment. What is the kind of current state of Japanese rugby, and what is kind of Eddie's most important kind of work-ons, I would say, to get them to a level that they would like. And you guys can let us know your thoughts on whether this is a good move or a bad move for Japanese rugby. I'll start with the controversy because that's obviously going to be the main talking point, is just how he was linked with the Japanese job when he was still at the bloody World Cup with Australia. That part seems kind of disgraceful, if indeed Eddie was lying through his teeth. And it seems like he must have been telling fibs, or at least kind of half-truths, for much of the way. It certainly seems like his relationship with the Aussie Rugby Board fell out pretty quickly. He'd just gotten sacked from England. They sacked Dave Rennie to replace them with Eddie Jones. Everything seems hunky-dory. Eddie seems to have had a plan, and he didn't get the support from Aussie Rugby that he wanted, so he decided to pull the plug. He could have stuck around, I suppose, and had a toxic relationship with the Aussie Rugby Board. Certainly Michael Checker in the past did not agree with some of the decisions made by Aussie Rugby. It seems like, is it disorganised? Is it a bit of a toxic working environment? I'm not sure, but it doesn't seem like everybody is on the same page. That is for certain. So Eddie decided to pull the plug. Some people would say he did them a favour, seeing as he was not happy with the way things were going to go. He couldn't get the things that he wanted. He could have held on to his contract and wait for them to sack him, taken their money. He didn't do that. He resigned. So you could say he took the honourable step. Or you could say that he'd already been talking to Japan in the background and decided, bugger this, I'm not dealing with this rubbish with Aussie Rugby, and I'd much rather go back to Japan where I can get my own way. And that seems to be anecdotally what we hear from some of the players. If you've seen some of the interviews about guys who've worked under Eddie Jones before, is that not everyone responds the same way to Eddie's coaching. He can be pretty demanding, and by all accounts, when he was in Japan, he tended to kind of get, if I say jump, you say how high. Whereas when you're talking to some of maybe England's big international players and you tell them to do stuff seemingly kind of arbitrarily, they tell you to go shove it. So maybe in Japan, his coaching style will go down a bit better than what he had kind of in recent times. But certainly it's a sour taste in Australia because of how many times he denied the links, and he vehemently denied them at times. But whether it was casual conversations or whether it was formal interviews, clearly he was having talks with either the president of Japanese rugby, somebody in the JRFU. Clearly there was conversations going on there. Whether you think Eddie made the right call or wrong call to kind of fall on a sword with Aussie Rugby, I'll leave that guy to you guys basically. But from my point of view, it looks pretty bad. It doesn't look good. It looks to me like he decided the kind of grass was greener in Japanese rugby. Maybe Aussie Rugby is toxic. Especially with the Michael Hooper thing. Maybe he's one of the guys who pushed back on Eddie's coaching. I don't know. Michael Hooper's been nothing but very diplomatic about it. Quade Cooper has just been total radio silence about it. When I say grass is greener back in Japan and how he had a kind of good coaching record there before, he did. His record, according to Rugby Database, was 33-11 in test matches, which is a phenomenal record. Remembering back in 2012, 2015, when he was coaching Japan, Japan was generally facing a lower caliber of opposition on a regular basis than what they do now. Like, since they kind of were pushed up, culminating in that win over the Springboks at the World Cup, and then the continuation on of that from Jamie Joseph at the next World Cup, Japan regularly gets, big matches against the likes of New Zealand and Ireland, and they played the British and Irish Lions in a non-test match and whatnot. So Japan gets a higher caliber of games now compared to when Eddie was taken over. So that's certainly going to be one of the challenges for him as he takes over. Is that they're going to be playing. Japanese rugby is basically just in a much different place from when he took over. And his forward pack, especially the front row, is getting pretty old. Like, Shota Horia, the hooker, he's 37, he's retiring. Ivalu, the prop, he's 34. Inagaki, the prop, he's 33. Craig Miller, I think, is 33. Loose forwards, Lapis Labaskakni is 34. And Michael Leach is 35. A lot of those guys are going to retire, one would imagine, in the next few years. So he's going to have a complete kind of overhaul of at least parts of his squad. Jamie Joseph has done a wee bit. I have heard some feedback from guys who are regular kind of followers of the Japan League One, their professional league, which didn't exist back when Eddie was coach, that Jamie Joseph's been a little bit guilty of kind of focusing on some of the imported players who just came to play rugby in the Japan League One rather than nurturing some of the local talent. So I would hope Eddie has got an eye for some of the emerging Japanese talent as well. But yeah, he's going to really have to get himself involved in the Japanese League One. He's going to have to look at replacing some of the senior guys, and he's going to have to, deal with, I guess, being in that awkward position of not being in the Six Nations or the Rugby Championship, but being expected to face Tier 1 teams and be competitive with them because Japan are kind of seen as being on that level. But yeah, 2027, return to Australia for a World Cup. I'm sure he will face a few boos. I'm sure there will be more to come out between now and then about what kind of broke down in that Aussie rugby relationship. Eddie has spoken about it a bit, and it just seems like they were on a different page. He decided to pull the plug. But as I mentioned, it's probably easier to make the call to pull the plug if you're pretty confident you've got another gig in the background. I know if I had a job, I would be pretty loath to quit, but if I had another job where I was confirmed I could take over another role, I'd be more likely to hand in my notice. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts. How do you reckon Eddie's going to go? Has he kind of gone down in your estimations with all the denials, or do you think it's kind of coming back to the way Aussie rugby is run? Fingers crossed from an Aussie rugby perspective, they can get a new coach in, the board can settle, they can get this Lions tour and this World Cup going to be successful. They can get a competitive side, they can bring some young talent through, but it's a big job for the guys at Aussie Rugby. Eddie doesn't have to worry about that anymore. You guys let us know your thoughts. If you want to check out me getting told I can't film in certain places in China while wearing a Leinster jersey, check out 2 Cents on Tour. That's my other channel. Totally something a bit different from rugby, although there is the odd rugby jersey that pops up. But yes, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.